Hi everyone, and welcome back to Something Is Up. In this episode, I'm joined by Patrick Leddy, an angelic healer based in the United States. Patrick shares the story of how his healing work began, from an unexpected psychic reading that identified him as a natural healer to years of training and practice within spiritual and mediumship circles. We talk about how he experiences energy, how his healing process works in person and remotely, and how he understands the role of angels, Christ consciousness, and spiritual guidance in his work. Patrick describes physical, emotional, and energetic healing sessions, including how sensations, movement, heat, and vibration are perceived during the process, and how different forms of energy are distinguished. We also explore his views on spiritual awakening, trauma as a catalyst for change, reincarnation, Akashic records, and the idea that not all healing is meant to occur in every lifetime. This conversation is a first hand account of lived experience, practice, and belief shared directly and without mediation. Enjoy. Hey, Patrick, good afternoon or good morning. What time is
morning.
it for you right now?
It is like 9:45 a.m. in the United States.
Okay, 9:45. So good morning to you. And thank you very much for doing this. I really appreciate
Sure.
you giving me the time. So I've already done a brief introduction of who you are, but I'd
Okay.
love if you told your story, introduce yourself to the audience in your own words, and tell us basically about who you are, where you come from, and how you ended up being an angelic healer
Oh,
and
yeah.
a very successful one. I gotta say.
Yeah, it's an interesting story. I'm originally from Long Island, New York. I moved down to Florida about 30 years ago because I wanted to raise my kids here because it's a lot nicer. And while I was married, I went to a psychic Saturday, they call it, where there's a small organization in Venice, Florida called Angel Studios. And they had a bunch of psychic mediums, and you would go in for a quick 15, 20-minute reading. So it was my birthday, and my wife said, "You want to go?" And I was like, "Sure, let's go." I had no idea what psychic mediums were all about. I didn't know what to expect. So I went with an open mind, So I went and I looked at the board. There was 9 people with their profile pictures on there. So I picked the guy like right in the middle, and my wife was like, "Really? That guy is kind of odd looking." And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know. There's something about this guy. I guess I got a gut feeling." His name was Richard Blanchard. He's actually a very famous psychic medium, and I did not know that at the time. So when I walked in, Richard took one look at me, and he looked me up and down. He went, "Well, well, well, what do we have here?" And then right away, I got nervous. I'm like, "Wow, why did he just say that?" So I sat down. He was very cordial, very nice. And he said, "Wow, you bring in an entourage with you." And I was like, "What do you mean? What does that mean?" He goes, "Well, there's a bunch of angels walking in behind you." I was like, "Really?" So he said, "Can you put your hands out in front of you like this?" So I did. I put my hands out, and he put his hands over my hands. And all of a sudden, I felt this tingling sensation, like pins and needles almost, going from him to me, what I thought. So he leaned back and he smiled at me and he said, "Did you feel that?" I was like, "Yes, I did." And I'm a little nervous right now. Like, what was that? He goes, "Well, that was you." I was like, "No way." I was like, "Is this some kind of a joke?" He goes, "No, no, no." He goes, "That was really you." And then he tilts his head a little bit and he's silent now. He's not speaking. And I'm really getting like, what is he doing? He was connecting to spirit. And he says, "Well, they just told me you don't understand what your gifts are." I was like, "Gifts? What does that mean?" He said, "Well, you're a natural healer. You're a spiritual healer. That's what you're doing here on this earth plane." I was like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." I had no idea. So that 20-minute reading turned into an hour and 15 minutes. He would not let me leave that chair. And his staff kept running in, telling him, "Hey, Richard, we got all these people waiting for you," because he was very popular. And he says, "I don't care. This guy's not getting out of my sight." So he kind of explained to me what I could do. And I didn't know what to believe. And then at the very end, he looks straight in my eye and he goes, "You don't believe me, do you?" And I'm like, "Nope." I don't believe a word you're saying. He goes, I'm going to prove it to you. I said, go ahead. And he pulled in a soul, an energy. And this energy was someone I knew who had crossed over a long, long time ago. He said he's a young man. He's like a teenager. And he's got two things he wants to say to you. One is, thank you for being my friend. So I wasn't quite sure who at this point. And then he goes, second one was, he's apologizing for taking his own life. Then I knew exactly who he was talking about. I had a very good friend of mine who hung himself when he was younger because he didn't think anybody liked him, and I was his only friend. So I was like, okay, lucky guess. I still didn't believe him. He says, wow. He goes, you're a tough one. He goes, all right, let me see who else I can pull in here. And he pulled my dad is on the other side. So, of course, he had a couple of things to say that only my father would have known about, and he did. And now I'm like literally shaking in my chair. I was like, my God, this guy is really connecting. And then the last one was my uncle. Now, my uncle is 6'10". He was tremendously tall. And as soon as he said, this guy is huge, he's like 6'10". And I was like, oh my God, it's my Uncle Charlie. He goes, yeah, he goes, he's got a message for you as well. He's telling me to tell you that psychic mediums run on your mother's side of the family, and it was kept secret all these years. Nobody knew about it. And I'm like, that explains why my mom always knew when we were doing something silly as kids. She always knew. And I was like, she probably had gifts, she had no idea. But I kind of just left it at that, and I walked out, and I kind of forgot about that reading. And several years later, I got divorced, and the moment I left my wife and moved out of that house, my hands were on fire. And I looked down at my hands and I said, wow, like what is going on with my hands? I didn't understand. So I had a friend of mine who I knew was a medium, and I called her up and said, hey, can we get together? I got something to ask you. And I asked about like why my hands were so hot. And she knew, like they were telling her. She's like, well, let me introduce you to a gentleman down in Venice that will help you, discover what you can do. She was like, you're pretty talented. You don't even know it. So I did. I met this guy named Tom Amir, and Tom has crossed over too now, sadly. He was a very good friend of mine. And I actually worked for Tom for about 8 years. He put me into a Tuesday night circle. And in that circle was a bunch of psychic mediums. They met every Tuesday night. And it was a group to discuss your gifts and see what you could do with your gifts. So the first night I went there, they all started staring at me. It made me extremely uncomfortable. But I was with my friend, Julie. And I just sat there and I kept looking around the circle and people kept staring at me. So finally I like raised my hand like, hey, why is everybody staring at me? So one of them finally jumped up out of her seat. She was so excited. She's like, oh, I'll tell you why. I could tell you exactly why. She goes, there's only one person I know of on the planet that has a rainbow, what we call a rainbow aura, which means that your aura is constantly changing colors. It's constant. It's like a rainbow. And she goes, I just met a second person tonight that has that rainbow aura, and I'm talking to him right now, and it's you. So now I'm like, what is that? I have no idea what an aura even is. And other people will confirm that, yes, you do have a very unusual aura. It's changing constantly. And I have done some aura photographs where one of them shows like a halo around my head, which is very interesting. They thought it was a mistake, and they took the photo like 3 times, and it came out the same each time. I have a copy of it to this day. That was probably about maybe 15 years ago when I had that done. And I've had other ones done since, and it constantly is changing my aura. So I get that. But in this circle group, one night.
What does it mean? What does it mean? Do they explain
from what I'm gathering from other mediums is that I'm an angelic soul. I'm not normal. I'm not like you guys, earthbound souls. I come from the angelic realms. So that's how it was explained to me. I never looked into it since, but I do what I do. So I guess maybe it's true. Don't know. So then what happened was like on a Tuesday night circle, Tom gets up and says, hey, would somebody in the group like a healing? And this lady raised her hand. So he sat her in the middle of the circle, sat her down. He gets up and he goes, I would really like someone to help me with this. And he points right over to me and says, Pat, come on up here and help me. And I'm like, no way, man. Like, I don't like crowds. I'm very shy. And I got up reluctantly because I felt pressured. And he said, just put your hands like this right behind her head. and don't touch her. Just stay like an inch away and then close your eyes. And I want you to visualize like the angels coming through and channeling. So I did that. And I felt myself kind of like rocking back and forth. It was kind of strange. It's the first time I've ever done it. And when I woke up, I opened my eyes. 20 minutes had gone by, which felt like 30 seconds to me. Everybody was staring at me again, the circle. Tom wasn't there. He was back in his seat laughing hysterically. And I'm like, how long have you been sitting in your chair? He goes, man, as soon as you put your hands up and the energy started flowing, you pushed me backwards. I had to sit down, literally. He's like, you have no idea how powerful your energy is. And then, of course, everybody went around the circle and they started to tell me, you know, like what they saw, like all these angelic souls coming through. And that's how it started. And every Tuesday night, instead of going to the meetings, I started practicing in one of their healing rooms, working on people. And it kind of snowballed after that. And I worked there for almost 8 years. Then I got out for probably about 4 years. I didn't do the angelic work. I just kind of got burnt out. It was, I channeled Christ consciousness a few times, and that kind of scared me. So I just got out. I didn't know what was going on. I was very confused. And then I met another woman named Natalie Sutherland here in Sarasota, Florida. She had a place called The Higher Realm, and she did a show where it was a live audience, about 60, 70 people, and she would just pick people randomly in the audience and read them in front of everybody. And it was interesting. So a friend of mine actually worked there, and he invited me down, and I brought a friend. And I said, well, if this lady is any good, she'll pick on me probably, because I think I stand out a little bit. And so I went. I sat all the way in the back as far as I could. I was kind of hiding in the back row. About 10 minutes left in this lady's show. And I'm laughing. I'm looking at my watch, and I'm going, ha, she didn't pick me. And I'm talking to my friend, and all of a sudden I hear this. And I'm coming to you. And she points right at me. The gentleman in the back, and I had an angel medallion on, wearing the angel medallion. I was like, uh-oh. So she got me. And the first thing she said as she was pointing at me, she's like, oh my gosh. She's like, the hair on my arms is raising up right now. And she's like, I'm feeling what you're feeling. They're showing me what you're feeling right now. And she's like, you're about to cry, aren't you? She's like, matter of fact, you are crying right now. And I shook my head. Yes, I am crying, because I'm feeling your pain as an empath. I'm a very strong empath. She had lost a child, and I picked up on it immediately. So I started crying. She started crying on stage. And then her next statement just blew me away. She's like, I've been doing this live for 22 years. I've never, ever met anyone in an audience that made me cry like you are right now. And then she just kept right on going. She's like, oh my gosh, they're showing me what you're capable of doing. You're an angelic healer. You have all these powers and abilities. She's like, and you're not using them. And they're telling me you're not using them. And you have a gift, and you're supposed to use that gift to better mankind and not squander it. So she's like, at the end of the show, please wait. I want to talk to you. I want to introduce myself personally. And she did. And lo and behold, I actually started working for her. I worked there for about 3 years as a healer. And she eventually closed that shop. I don't know the reasons behind it, but she still does some things, but not like she used to. We're still friends, of course. And she would give me private readings where she could connect to, the higher realms and Christ consciousness. And a lot of messages from Jesus came through, and he would come through during live performances and just come right, my brother in the back row. I knew it was me. And it was pretty profound. He was very disappointed that I didn't continue my practice, and he let me know it in not such a nice way. I was humiliated. I mean, I got up and walked out of there, like the whole audience turned around and looked at me. I was like, oh gosh, like, yeah, nice job, Jesus. You really know how to get your point across. So it was like right after that I went back like a month later, and she was doing her final thing, and he came through again. And this time he acknowledged me, and he said, I'll never forget these words. I want to thank you for allowing me to kneel beside you and pray together with you. And I want to also thank you for opening up your heart to me and loving me again. And I just like lost it when that happened. I was so, I was crying, just bawling my tears out. And then when he left the medium, he kind of like jumped into me, and I immediately left, just went home. He spent the night, and we talked, and, through my consciousness, it was pretty wild. And then I've been doing
How
it
did
ever
you
since.
how did you experience that? So, what was the mechanic of that interaction? Would you hear voices? Would you feel
It's
energy?
it's very difficult to explain because as a medium, um, when you're communicating with the other side, some people do hear voices. I do not hear voices. I just get the thoughts put into my mind so I know exactly what they mean and what they're saying. Normally, when I do have a conversation with them, it's when I'm channeling. That's when I'm wide open. I'm in a different place. My ability to step outside of my body and stand over here and allow spirit to come through is my gift. And when they do that, they kind of guide me. They show me where to go. They are never wrong. They always find the problem and they always go directly to the problem. And that's the gift that I have. Because I get challenged all the time. I mean, people will come into wherever I'm working and I'll ask them, is there anything specific that you'd like me to work on? It's always good to know. And some people go, I'm not going to say anything. I'm like, oh, challenge accepted. Hop on my table. Let's go. And at the end, I always get the same problem. They're like, wow, how did you know? I was like, I don't know anything. I'm just the channel. That's all I do. But spirit knows, spirit knows exactly where the issues are. And when I do a Zoom call, it's a little bit different. I do have to ask because I have to know generally where to send spirit's energy. And then once they get there and they find other things, they'll direct my hands. I just visualize you sitting in front of me. And then I put my hands like I would normally do it. And it works. I mean, people will tell me, like, wow, I felt your hands going all over me. I felt your hands on my shoulders. I felt your hands on my head. And it does work. I mean, it's just as powerful on a Zoom call as it is in person, but that's the only difference is I do need to ask a little bit of information first, and then I can jump right in and have at it. And whatever comes up, comes up.
Understood. A few questions on the side, if you don't mind, because
sure,
this is the engineer in me that tries to understand the mechanics of things. And of course, there are multiple different people have different abilities, different clairs. We talked about hearing thing, which is clairaudience. I believe that you are clairvoyant and you have different kind of abilities, although you don't use them that much because you're focusing on the healing. But when you said, I have the ability to step out of my body and let the angels come in.
Correct.
This means that you do trans channeling, right?
Yes.
And how does that work? What is the feeling? Do you feel, what does it mean for you? I feel that I'm leaving my body and I feel them stepping in. What is that feeling?
So when I first started, what would happen is I would sweat profusely when their energy came through me because I was learning. And I mean, just dripping sweat off my head. I'd drip onto people. It was embarrassing. I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And I didn't realize my body would heat up from their energy because spirit is very strong. So over the years, what they've done is they've built my energy up so that I can handle more of their energy, so to speak. So I'll give you an example. Like one time I was sitting next to my girlfriend at the time, and I look over at her and she's just dripping sweat off of her face. And I look at her, I'm like, you okay? And she's like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? I'm going to ask you if you're okay. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, you're on fire right now. You are so hot, you're making me sweat. That's how hot you are. They're doing something to you. And I'm like, I don't feel a thing. I felt nothing. And then I put my hand on my chest and I was like, oh, that. Yes, now I do feel it because my hands are the gateway to the soul. I can feel everything through my hands. And I did feel that. So over the last probably 5 or 6 years, they've been upgrading me really big. I mean, I've gone through weeks and weeks where I actually get sick. I feel like I have the flu, but I'm not sick. It's them upgrading me. So I have a friend of mine who is very clairvoyant and can speak directly to spirit for me. I call them my little powwows. So when we have a powwow, I asked this question. I was like, hey, can you ask spirit, why am I being upgraded? Like, why do I always feel sick? This happened about a year ago. And they answered very quickly. They were like, well, because if you were to take Christ consciousness directly, it would probably give you a heart attack and or kill you. The energy is so strong. So we're upgrading you. I have a very interesting story where I was in Naples, Florida at a show about 4 years ago. And I kept asking, like, okay, so I understand how it works. It's Father's energy or source, whatever you want to refer to it as, goes to Jesus and then it goes through me and into you. So I said, well, why doesn't Father just come directly through me? And the answer was, well, because he's way too powerful. I mean, it would hurt you. So over the years, I got to understand the energies of like Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael, Metatron, or a few that I work with closely. And Metatron comes in like gangbusters. It's really fast. It's really hard. And he came in while I was working on somebody. And then he brought Father with him. And he gave me just a little zap of his energy. And it shook me to the core. I mean, I thought I was going to pass out. And the woman I was working on totally flipped out. But she felt it. And she's hysterical crying. I'm like dripping sweat. I'm like, what was that? So I went back to my friend and I said, I need to know who that was because that was not Christ consciousness. And she started laughing and she says, well, Metatron's up there laughing right now. And he's telling, careful what you wish for, my friend, because that was me. And Father came with me just for a second, just to give you a little glimpse of what you could handle. And he said, congratulations, by the way. I said, well, why are you saying that? He goes, you didn't pass out. You took it. He goes, we were very surprised that you could handle it. So since then, I've been getting upgraded even further. And a lot of people will tell me, like, when in person, my hands get really, really hot. I don't feel that anymore because to me, they're just warm. But people tell me, like, oh my gosh, yeah, your hands are so hot. Like I was about to tell you to stop because it was too hot. That's Christ consciousness. When it comes through, it comes in strong. And I can tell the difference between him and an archangel because it's a different vibration. I feel completely different. Sometimes like Mother Mary will come through and she's very gentle and loving and caring. She makes me cry every single time she comes through. And she usually comes through for kids. I work on a lot of children. That's her energy. She comes in, she's very gentle and caring. And even Jesus's energy.
So you feel a different texture, let's say, for the energy. It's
Yes.
How do you see the differences?
It's like a different vibration, and it vibrates me in a different way. Like sometimes, I give you an example. Sometimes if Archangel Michael comes in hot and heavy, so to speak, my hands will literally shake like this. I know it's him. When Jesus comes in, sometimes my whole body will shake. Or I'll get super focused. And I've had people tell me, like when I'm working in my little tent at a show, when he comes in and I'm focusing in on something, I stare. I do like one of these, my eyes open wide. And he goes, they say, people tell me this. Now I've never seen it because it's me, but that my eyes will change color. They'll go to a very dark cobalt blue. And they said the interesting thing is like when you're doing it and you're staring at someone or you're just focusing on something, you don't blink. I'm like, what do you mean I don't blink? She goes, you do not blink. Your eyes are wide open. She goes, usually you're crying, but you don't blink at all. And I know what I'm doing. When that happens, my eyes are open, but I don't see people around me. What I'm doing is I'm looking into their soul. I'm looking into their body and I'm looking for where the problem is. Or I'm focusing on like a dark energy or something negative that needs to come out and I need to find it. And that's why I get that laser focus. So and that's always Christ consciousness. That's him 100%. The angels don't do that, but he does. And that's what he's doing. He's focusing in on a certain thing. He's trying to show me how to, find it myself.
How do you perceive the problem or the dark energy, etc.? How do you understand what it is? You said they show you. In what form? At some point, you have a knowing that there is a problem on the heart, on the lungs, or on the.
So it's an interesting question. So the way it works with me, if someone, let's say, just has a dark energy, as soon as I lay hands on them, within a few seconds, they'll twitch. Their whole body will twitch, uncontrollable. That's my sign. That's them saying, hey, we have a problem here. There's something inside here that doesn't belong and it needs to come out. Some people twitch a lot. Some people twitch a little bit. Everyone is different. And anybody can pick up a dark energy. Just, they come right in through your crown chakra, wherever. Some people do those ayahuasca ceremonies. Those are very dangerous if it's not done properly. A lot of people swear by them, but that's when you're open and that's an opportunity for darkness to come in. I've done so many now, I almost feel like an exorcist. I haven't gotten anything real nasty. I've had a few nasty ones where, they would curse at me, speak in tongues, and do all sorts of weird stuff. Their bodies are jumping all over the place. But the light always wins because I'm not afraid of them. I show no fear, zero fear. It doesn't matter what they say to me or what they do to me. They can't physically hurt me. And I kind of laugh at them and say, well, "Was that all you got?" Like, really? This is going to be easy. And I call in Jesus, and I'll even say it out loud, in the name of Jesus Christ, you need to be gone. You need to get out of this person's soul. You need to get out of here. Because,
How they manifest themselves? Is that you're talking of, if I'm not mistaken, an actual possession type of
similar? Yeah. I mean, dark energies, demonic energies, whatever people want to refer to it to. Yeah, a lot of people carry that around, and you can tell right away. Sometimes I see it as a dark shadow. A lot of times if I'm looking at someone while during a session, especially on Zoom, I can see like a little shadow pop out. As a medium, like, I can see sometimes your guides will come through, and they just looks like a silhouette, like your silhouette, but they'll move over and they'll peek at me, and it's fine. That's perfectly normal. Everybody has a guide, everybody has an energy field. But with dark energy, you'll see a little fuzzy black, and then I'll know right away. And I have done them over Zoom calls too, several times, where people would the same thing. They'll twitch, and then they'll actually reveal themselves, and I'll just keep the energy on, and I'll talk to spirit and say, "Hey, we need to get rid of this stuff," and they do all the time. I'm just
And
a
so this
vessel.
is for energy. When you are instead are dealing with an emotional problem and a physical problem, there are different ways you recognize those issues.
Yes. Yeah. So with the physical issue, it's really hard to explain. Like, spirit is the one that guides my hands. I don't know anything about medical stuff on people. I don't know anatomy. I've not studied any of that. They just say, "Put your hands here," and I put my hands there, and then they stay. And every single time I do that, people will get up and say, "I didn't even tell you I had surgery on my shoulder," and you put your hand right on the surgery, right where they cut me. And I always say the same thing. It's like, well, it's not me. I'm not a magician. It's spirit. Spirit knows everything. They never make a mistake. I mean, sometimes, yes, I can miss something. It's I'm human. And sometimes I get distracted or something happens and I miss something. But the energy, what I've learned over the years now is I don't really need to move around too much on someone's body. I can go through their crown chakra and pretty much go anywhere in the body, right through the crown. The energy is everywhere. A lot of people will say, "Wow, I felt it coming out my feet and my hands." I'm like, yeah, because your crown chakra is connected to everything. That goes right down your spine, out your legs, everywhere. But when I focus in on a particular area, like if I'm working on someone's side, I might be working on their pancreas, their stomach, liver, kidneys. I don't know. I just know where they tell me to put the hands. And then a lot of times, people will say, "Yeah, I had a problem there," or "I had to have surgery years ago," and you put your hand right on it. And I said, well, they're probably just healing up some scar tissue. Who knows what they're doing? I don't know. But I always get a lot of positive feedback from people, even days, months later, weeks later. It's really amazing. Everyone is different. Everyone handles the energy differently.
And do you need to have visual contact with the person? For example, in Reiki, you could send the energy to a person at a certain period of time. Even in the future, you don't have to have a visual confirmation from the person. Do you prefer to have visual?
I have tried that. It does work, but for me as a practitioner, I like to see the person. Okay. And even sometimes if I do a Zoom call and they're on a phone or something and it falls, I'll get back on the mic and I'll say, "Hey, your phone fell," because I really do need to see you. So I can kind of I check in with people because I keep my eyes closed too. But once in a while, I'll open them just to make sure they're doing okay. And I'm especially looking for any, quick jerk motions or something, like if they have like some kind of dark energy. So I do have to monitor them. That's the only reason why. Okay. Could I send it without seeing them? More than likely, yeah. I mean, when I first started doing this, I wasn't quite sure how to do a Zoom call, and Spirit would come right in and ask me, "Where are they? Are they in Sicily, Italy?" Okay, that's what that's all they asked me. What area of the country or world they're in. I don't have to have your address or anything, but then my job is to just tell them, and I visualize the energy going to you, and then it connects. And when I had a powwow, when I first started doing these, Spirit came right in. They were like all excited. They're like, "Wow, we're in awe." I'm like, "What are you in awe of?" And they're like, "You, like your ability to direct us to the person is, we've never seen this before. Like you got it, you nailed it immediately." And I've gone as far as Australia. And the first thing I asked the lady was, "Did it work?" And she's like, "Yes, it did. I felt you." She's like, "I'm still vibrating. I'm shaking right now." And I'm like, "That's amazing. I didn't know I could go that far." And now I do it all the time. I've probably done over 500 or 600 Zoom calls. So
Mm.
I actually like doing the Zoom calls because it's a lot of fun. I get to reach more people, all over the place. And a
And
lot of people will come back.
and I want to provide a very brief disclaimer. We had 2 sessions together, right? So we're
Yes.
having this call, but I reached out to you a couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
I had quite a bad lower back pain,
Okay.
and a few weeks before that, I had remained completely blocked in bed for more than a week, doing injections. I couldn't actually move at all, and so I had this lingering, very nasty lower back pain. I came to you a couple of weeks ago. We did a session, and the next morning it was way reduced. And I told
Good.
you we did a second session a couple of days ago, and right now the back pain is completely gone.
Good.
So this is just for the audience. And I'm in Sicily, you're in Florida. We
Right.
use Zoom, and so
It works.
again,
It works everywhere. You there's no place you
yeah.
can hide.
and, and rationally, and as an engineer that I was telling you this a couple of days ago, I didn't grow up religious. I didn't grow up
Yes.
spiritual. This is an experience that I'm having, and that was triggered by the loss of my dad and one of my best friends a couple of years ago. And so I'm still trying to figure it out,
Right.
what this all mean, because I feel that I've never believed any of this, and I never thought that I could have a conversation like this with somebody like you. And now
I made a believer out of you, didn't I?
Exactly. People don't recognize me anymore because
It's
my complete.
It's an amazing process. I mean, I think the reason why I'm so good at what I do is because I learned many years ago just to keep an open mind.
Mm.
I was raised a Roman Catholic, but here I am as a spiritual person doing healings. If you would have told me 10 years ago I'd be doing this, I would have laughed at you. No way.
Yeah.
But I believe in the process. I believe in the Heavenly Father. I believe in Jesus. I'm probably one of Jesus's biggest fans right now because I believe in him 100. I mean, I love him to. My life is consumed with him. I mean, you can see, look, there he is in my background right there. I got him all over my house because I talk to him all the time. I love him like a brother, and that's how I refer to him, as my brother.
Okay.
I don't use his name. He doesn't use my name. He calls me his brother, and it's just a wonderful relationship. And people think I'm nuts, but hey, I'll tell you what. Now I'm not, right? And you had
Yeah.
the experience, and it was wonderful. And I'm so happy to hear that your back is doing much better. That's great.
Yeah. So, can I ask you, what did you feel when you did my healings?
So it's interesting. So a lot of times, like especially on the second time, because I've already worked with you, now I'm a little more familiar with your soul projection, so to speak. And I knew like they just would visually show me your back, and I would put my hands like on your lower back, and they would say, okay, raise it up like 3 more inches. I'd raise it up and raise it up again. I'd raise it up 3 more inches. And then, they usually, I know from years of doing this what works on backs. And then I went right down your spinal column. And then I went right to underneath the base of your skull, like to connect to your brain. And that's telling your subconsciousness, okay, this pain is over. This is not going to bother you anymore. And it's interesting because over the years, you just kind of know what to do. Like I said, I'm not a doctor. I don't offer medical advice or anything like that. I never do. There's just a knowing, spirit knows. They know what people need. I mean, it's like when Christ used to do his healings. I mean, he would do it all day long and he'd be exhausted, but he would do it till everyone got healed. It's the same thing for me. I mean, I just have a knowing, I channel his energy, and it's beautiful. I mean, it really is a wonderful gift to have. And I I can't thank him enough for allowing me to do it. I feel very honored to do it.
Yeah.
And that's my life purpose right now, is to heal as many people as I can.
So let's take a step back. First of all,
Okay.
that's beautiful. I mean, this level of service is it's really noble. And I say not in a. I mean, I really believe it. The But let's take a step back. What was your life before all of this?
I was just an ordinary guy. I was over the road truck driver for many years, and I owned my own businesses. I raised a family. My kids are all grown and they're all adults now, having their own lives. And um, it's when I left my ex-wife, my gifts kind of popped, and I didn't understand why. And I just kind of went with an open mind. And I said, you know what? Let me look into this. Let's see what's the next chapter in my life. And this is it. I mean, I have an amazing life right now. And what I mean by that is I'm not rich or wealthy or anything like that, but I have a very rich environment because I get to help so many different people on different levels. I mean, the energy doesn't work for everybody. Even Jesus couldn't heal everybody. Some people are living out Akashic record requests or whatever their issues are. If they're not firm believers, I don't think it really works for them. But the ones that I can heal are the ones where I get all my reviews from. And it's just, it's so nice to be able to help this many people as I do each week. I mean, my Zoom calls, I'm always pretty busy. So book early.
Yeah. And I'll put the links to the website in the
Awesome.
description of the video. Now, our divorce is always a traumatic event, no
Yes.
matter whether or not is. Do you think that some of the trauma of the divorce was caused the opening? Because this is a very common theme.
It could have. And I firmly believe that I was married for almost 30 years. So I was in it for the long haul. I was, raised Catholic. I don't really believe in divorce. But it got to a point where it was inevitable. It had to happen because we were just at such odds. And I think that I found my peace when I left there. And I am single right now too, because I'm at peace. I'm here doing God's work, and I need to be focused on what I'm doing. I don't really have time for a relationship right now. So yes, I do feel that it affected me greatly. Since my last relationship, my energy has skyrocketed. So it's like, I should probably stay single.
Well, this is a personal, I assume, personal
Yeah, I mean,
choice.
I'd love to have a relationship with someone, but I think it's even more difficult now because of what I do and my popularity. It's going to take a really strong woman to put up with it because I deal with a lot of people, and 85% of my clients are women. 15% are men, and I love working on men because a lot of men don't like coming forward to do this kind of stuff. But after healing, they always either wind up crying or they wind up hugging me for 5 minutes. They're like, that was insane. Like, that was incredible. Thank you so much. I feel so much better. I'm like, I wish more guys would come in because men need it. We stuff everything into our heart chakra. And that's the first place I go on guys, right to their heart chakra and clear it out for them. And I was like, don't you feel better? And they always say, yes, it's amazing.
So what do you think? No, let me ask you the question differently. Do you think, like many other spiritual teachers right now, from the New Age movement, etc., that we are living an awakening as a people, as a planet, that we are moving towards a different state of being? What is your point of view on all of that?
Yeah, I definitely believe that because, we're in that third dimensional mindset, and a lot of people are going up to the fourth and fifth dimensions, even higher.
What does that mean for you? How do you see that?
For me, spiritually, it's where it's at. I mean, when you raise your vibration, you start connecting to different things, and you realize the old stuff in the three-dimensional world doesn't suit us anymore. So we need to keep going forward. And I think the whole earth is shifting into a higher conscious state, which is beautiful because I think that's, what they want us to do. They want us to excel and move forward. And, I think people really need to start using their pineal glands and their third eyes. And, there's so many things that are blocking our third eyes. like the fluoride in the water and all the nonsense in our food. So once you start eating clean and really practicing, like I always tell people, ask me this all the time about spirituality. And I said, do you meditate? That's the first question I ask them. Do you meditate? No. Well, you should. You really should. Jesus meditated all the time. I mean, how many times do we read in the scripture, where he would leave his disciples and say, I just need to be alone. I need to speak with Father. I need to meditate. Well, that's how you do it. And the more you meditate, and I'm guilty of not doing it myself, but I've got my meditation skills to a point where when I go to bed, that's when I meditate. Instead of falling asleep, I go into a meditative state. I say, my prayers, I do my thing. And that's when Spirit comes in and starts talking to me. Next thing I know, my alarm's going off. And I don't even realize it. I'm like, wow, I was just meditating. I was so relaxed. I fell asleep. But you really don't fall asleep. You're still connected to Spirit and talking to them. I think if more people practiced, more spiritual stuff, enlightenment, and trying to raise their vibration, they'll see it's a good thing to raise your vibration right now. We have to keep up with everybody else.
Well, I definitely agree. And yeah, meditation is becoming a very important
Yes.
element in my life. Again, not religious. I'm not going to say that I'm not religious. I'm not religious in a conventional way, in the sense that I don't go to church. I don't subscribe to official religions. But definitely spirituality is becoming a very important part of my life. And so, I mean, people say Earth is going to the fifth dimension. We're raising our consciousness. What does it mean for you that we're raising our consciousness? We're seeing a lot of people talk about unity consciousness or the age of Aquarius. What kind of belief system right now with regards to who we are, where we come from, how we're going to progress, have you developed over the years?
For me, it's a little bit different because I'm so connected to Source, and I wasn't expecting that when, 10 years ago when I first started, I had no clue what I was in for. And then I was tested by another medium for all my clairvoyance and clairsentience, clairaudience, all that. I have all 7 clairs, but I don't use them because I don't feel I need to. I don't follow that spiritual genre, so to speak. I have my gifts. I have my way of communicating with Spirit, and that's what I focus on. And I realize that other people are starting to creep up into the 5th dimension too, because they're all being energized, enlightened. And I think it's wonderful that everyone's doing it. And I think we need as a collective to do it. I mean, there's so much, I hate to say it, but there's evil in this world. There is so much darkness out there.
Yeah.
Look at all the stuff they're doing to us. And
when you say everyone is doing, I assume you're talking about people in the different spiritual bubbles that we are in, because there's a lot of darkness in the world still. There's a lot of
there is. I mean, I think in general, what I meet out there are the more spiritual people come to these type of shows and events that I do, not just your basic everyday mom and dad. The people who are spiritual, they kind of understand where we're going, and we need to stop hurting one another. We need to stop, poisoning our foods and being careful and all that good stuff. And I think that's part of the whole spiritual movement is people are trying to get to a place that we don't have this negative stuff, like the stuff they're spraying in the skies, the poison in our food. That's not what Father wanted. That's not what Jesus wanted either. I mean, we're supposed to live as a collective. I get asked this a lot too. Like, does it matter what religious beliefs I have if I can come into your tent? And I'm like, absolutely not. I've worked on Hindus and Buddhists, and they don't really believe in Jesus. But when I got done with them, they realized something special just happened to them. I said, so no, you don't have to. If you have a little bit of faith, it's going to work. I mean, I have a lot of faith that it's going to work, so it's going to work. I mean, some people don't get anything out of it, and it does happen, and I give them their money back. So I've done it once where I gave somebody their money back. I said, here, I don't want your money. The money doesn't mean anything to me. It's the experience that means something to me. So if you didn't experience it, maybe your belief system needs to change. And that's what I told her. And she was cool with it. And I was fine with it too. I was like, have a lovely day. You know, I'm
Do you
sure a
think
couple
is
of days.
that could
Yes,
also be that that person was on a different journey? And
it could be.
do you believe that we? So I assume you believe in reincarnation.
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
And do you believe that we decide the experiences that we want to have in this life? That is always our conscious decision as a soul, the kind of experience that we want to have. And so, in that context, maybe the healing might not work because we have decided to experience the illness, maybe to.
I believe like when before you incarnate back onto Earth, you know, you're sitting with your guides and your people up there in heaven, and you decide what lesson it is that you wanted to learn. I mean, some people have Akashic record requests, and that's what that is. That's a
What does it mean?
request. It
Is the
means
second
like
time?
you're requesting that they send you back to Earth to experience your experience. Like maybe you murdered somebody in another life and then you're going to be murdered in this life because you need to experience that. Or maybe you mistreated someone and then you're going to be mistreated. There's all sorts of different scenarios. So I was told very early on, if someone has an Akashic record request, you will not be able to heal them. It just won't work. You'll be wasting your time. And I have had Spirit and Jesus step in and say, stop working on this person because they're living out an Akashic record request. You cannot help them. We cannot intervene. It's not allowed. I have a very good friend of mine who was living an Akashic record request. Long story short, he had gotten a surgery which kind of circumvented the Akashic record request. And I asked that question. I said, now, if he gets this surgery and it's successful, and back when he made that request, they didn't have that technology, would in essence bypass that whole scenario? And they said, yes, yes, it could, because we didn't have the technology when he made the Akashic record request, and now they do. So yes, it could circumvent his situation. And guess what? It did. He's doing great now. He's doing very good. I just actually saw him yesterday. Very good friend of mine. And he's doing phenomenal. And I told him, I was like, dude, you have no idea how lucky you are right now. You talk about luck.
Can you explain to the audience what's the Akashic records?
So the Akashic record is exactly what I just explained. Like you're signing up for something to come back to the earth plane with. You pick your parents, you pick your family, you pick everything. You choose it all. If you're going to be wheelchair bound, you pick that because that's the experience that you wanted to experience. It's another lesson. So the way it was explained to me is that your soul is in a different dimension and a slice of your soul comes back to be reincarnated. So when you die, you just leave your body and you get reconnected with your soul and you wake up and you go, wow, that was insane. That was a crazy dream. But, you know, we live in so many different dimensions at the same time. I'm probably in another dimension doing healings on other people there. You just don't know.
Very possible. And a lot of people awake to this gifts, let's say, these abilities after trauma. Could be a divorce, but it could also be a near-death experience, etc. Have you experienced near-death experience? Have you had near-death experiences or out-of-body experiences before?
That's a loaded question. I'm going to give you an answer. So one of the reasons I had a very traumatic, childhood, terrible, and an early adulthood. I never thought I would live past 30. I really didn't. Jesus came in and saved my soul. He really did. I was on the path of destruction. So I asked him, why did I have to experience all the stuff that I experienced? And his answer was very simple. He's like, well, to be honest with you, you had to go through those experiences to make you the empath that you became and to make you the healer that you are to become. Because now you completely understand trauma, what it's like, and how to deal with it. And he goes, these were not punishments at all. These were lessons that you needed to learn to become who you are today. And now all that stuff is behind me. It's done. It's over with. And I think it's really important that I did go through those things, because I do get it. Like if somebody comes into me with trauma from childhood, I can pick up on it instantly. If they were abused as a child, I know as soon as I lay hands on them, I know, because I know that feeling. And I go right to it. And they usually are the ones that wake up crying and hysterical. I actually just did one on a Zoom call. She was just bawling her eyes out at the end. She's like, wow. She's like, I feel amazing. I'm like, I know. I just got into the right places. I know exactly where to go. But yeah, I mean, that's probably why I am a healer, because I suffered through a lot of trauma as an early adult. I wasn't such the great guy that everybody knows now. I was different back then. I've changed big time. So,
And what was the experience that I'm not talking about the details, but what made you change?
Well, the part that made me change is when Spirit got involved with me. That was a big transformation in my life, because I was still doing stupid stuff, and then when they got involved, I was like, hey, wait, there is something better out there. There is something different, and I'm experiencing that now. And now I would never want to go back. I just want to move forward with my experiences, and working with the Holy Spirit and having Jesus, in my corner is the great thing.
Absolutely. When I speak to a lot of healers or mediums and people that have psychic abilities, there's always a plethora of energies and entities and beings that they connect to. And sometimes it's angelic, sometimes is ascended masters like Jesus, Buddha, etc. Sometimes it's even ETs, interdimensional or extra dimensional, however you want to call them. Did you have experiences beyond the angelic realm and Jesus, channeling or connecting to cosmic beings, for example?
I haven't per se. I have always been with the angels and Spirit and Jesus. I'm very unique. I mean, Jesus asked me once if I knew a certain person who was a very famous healer in Brazil. And I said, yes, I know of him, and I don't know him personally. He said, well, he was very gifted and very talented, and he went down the wrong path. He started doing dark things, and they took his powers away. He said, you're going to be 20 times more powerful than he ever was. We made some mistakes with him, but we're not going to make those mistakes with you. And then he continued to say, the Holy Trinity is within you. So now you represent us. Let me say that again. And he did. He repeated it. And I was like, what does that mean exactly? He goes, well, when you're out and about, you have to think twice about what you say. And you have to ask yourself, what would Jesus say? Not what would Patrick say? And he goes, so every behavior that you do now and every action that you do, you have to realize you're representing the Holy Spirit. Us.
What do you think is your mission? I mean, the healings are clear, but there must be a larger plan at play. What's your understanding?
Is, I mean, now I have been told by them that one day I should be able to heal the masses with just pointing my hands in the right direction. That hasn't happened yet. They have showed me how it works. It's actually pretty amazing, and it's I don't think I'm quite ready for that yet. It's a very emotional, it's a very moving experience when I do that. Now I do a one-touch healing program where I get up in front of a live audience, and there could be 50 people in the room, and I kind of tell my story like I did earlier in the program. And as soon as I play the music, because Jesus loves drum music, by the way, he loves to dance. So I play African drum music. It's great, and people love it. And we crank it up. And boy, when I'm on fire, watch out, because I tell people, you want to line up here and come and feel? I just do a one touch on them. And I've got videos all over my my website that'll show people their hands start shaking, their knees start shaking, they start to pass out, and I have to grab them. I have to. I'm like, are you okay? Like, don't fall down. Please stay standing. I'll back off a little bit, and that's when it really comes through hard. And that's when I can show people. So, like one time, I had a gentleman that looked me right in the face, and he said, "I didn't feel anything," and I was like, "I'm really sorry, sir. Have a nice day. I don't know what to tell you." So I asked the question to Spirit, and I said, "Well, how come some people don't feel it? Like, they don't feel your energy?" And they very quickly answered me, "Non-believers." I'm like, wow, that's that simple? Non-believers? So my response to that was, well, why don't you allow me to give him that energy and make a believer out of him? There was dead silence for like 30 seconds or more. And I'm like, uh-oh, did I just like ask something I shouldn't have asked? I've been waiting for a sandal to come whack me on the head. But then Jesus came back in and he said, Father said resoundingly, no, not going to do it, but I will do it. Let's see at the next event that you do like that, we're going to turn your energy up and we're going to see what happens. I was like, great, I appreciate that. And they did. And that next event, it was actually locally here, close to my home. I had two very good friends of mine sitting in the front row. And by the fifth person that I was touching, my two friends got up and left. And I was kind of insulted. I'm like, these are my best friends. So afterwards, I talked to them and they said, well, by the fourth or fifth person that you healed, your energy was so strong, we had to get up and leave because we couldn't sit there. It was too strong. Like, we've known you for years and we're used to your energy, but there was something different about it. Very strong, very powerful. We couldn't. And the very last guy I did it that day, he was huge. This guy was tremendous. He was like 6'6". He had shoulders on him, like, he could barely fit through a door. And I just looked up at him and I'm like, oh boy, like the look on his face, I knew. And I immediately touched his heart chakra and I put my hand around his back and made that connection to his heart. And here's like a 6'6" guy, big dude, crying, hysterically crying. Like, he lost control of himself. And I just kept holding it, right? And he was shaking. I literally say shaking. His whole body was vibrating. I mean, Jesus came in so hard for this guy. And at the end, he just looked at me. He grabbed my shoulders and he pulled me in and hugged me. I thought my head was going to pop off. I was like, okay, you need to stop. Like, you're hurting me. And he came up to me later and he said, I really didn't know if I believed in what you did. And he goes, I was downstairs actually when you started this, and it was like a loft I was in, and the venue was down, but it was open. So he said, I felt something pulling me up the stairs, and I had to come in and see what it was, and it was you. And he goes, so I didn't know what to expect. And he goes, man, I'll tell you what, you just made a believer out of me. Definitely made a believer out of me. I was like, well, thank you so much. So I proved my point.
Did you have government people coming to you? We know now for a fact that many governments, and especially the US one, have been studying psychics and psychic abilities forever, for decades and decades. And I've asked several mediums that also had UFO experiences on the show, and they said, yes, I was approached. Were you ever approached personally by government level people?
Not yet.
No.
Not yet.
Okay.
And I asked that question very early on when I was having a session with my friend who can connect with them, and I asked him two things: who's going to protect my family? If I ever became famous, like, I'd be very nervous for my kids, and even my ex-wife. I mean, I wouldn't want anybody hurting them to get to me. And they said, don't worry, we will protect them. I said, okay, now what about me? Like, how do I keep the crazies from coming out? He's like, don't worry, we'll protect them. Even if somebody shot you, there would be a miraculous healing right there on the spot. You will not die. We won't let you. So I have to go with that belief, and I firmly believe that. And I'm a big dude myself. I mean, I'm 6'3" and 280 pounds. I'm a big guy. So, and I did martial arts for over 25 years, so I can handle myself pretty well.
No, but I didn't mean it from the perspective of hurting you, etc., but studying you, trying to understand the ability, trying to look at your brain and your brain waves and how it behaves, etc., because that's pretty common, no?
I do have an interesting story. I did a show in Memphis, Tennessee a couple of years ago, and these two people that came in to see me, they were brain doctors. And while I was working on his wife, I did a certain hold on her skull, so to speak, like underneath her skull. And I touched here at the meridians go through your mouth. I had my fingers here and on her temples. And the husband was in my tent, and he said, "Can I see where your fingers are exactly?" And I was like, "Sure." And she rotated her head, and I showed him. And he said, "Who showed you how to do that?" I was like, "Nobody. Spirit showed me." He goes, "That's an amazing move." He goes, "That's like kind of a spiritual reset button. It's like a brain reset button that you're touching." He goes, I'm shocked that you know how to do that." I'm like,
Mm.
"Well, I don't know how to do anything. I don't know anything medically. I don't know a thing. I just do what spirit tells me." And he wanted to map my brain. That's what they did for a living. Him and his wife, they would map children's brains, and they would use that electronic signals to help communicate with them. They had syndromes and stuff, and it was very popular. So I immediately said, "No way. It's not. No, you're not touching my brain. You're not changing
Why?
what I do."
No, is there a fear there or a belief that is going to influence the way you do your work?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want anything to change, so I would never let anybody touch me there. Nuh-uh,
Okay.
not happening.
Okay.
I would just say no.
Understood.
But I mean, I'm sure it might happen one day, where somebody from the government comes to me and says, "Hey, we want to talk to you." Be like, "Nope."
Well, we were talking about the fact that you feel that that there is this acceleration and this change,
Mhm.
uh, and so in the context of the larger mission, do you feel that that moment is close? And if so, how close? Do you have a time horizon in your mind or that you've been told of when your gift at scale is going to be needed?
That's a great question. I don't know, honestly. I saw where I was like 5 years ago compared to what I can do now, and my gifts have, quadrupled since then. So they're always upgrading. I'm always finding new things that I can do as I do these shows. I mean, it's very interesting to me because, I started doing the Zoom calls back in last August, and they were bugging me for almost 2 years to do those Zoom calls. Spirit was. They kept telling me, "You got to do Zoom calls." And I'm like, "Man, I don't want to do that. I don't know how to do that." But now I do them all the time. So I got used to it. It's just one more notch in my tool belt, so to speak, about what I can do. And, I notice a change when I do in-person healings as well. They're getting very different. I used to work all over people's bodies and work on their knees. And if now, a lot of times I just go right through the crown chakra because I realize that I can just visually say, "Hey, the knee's a problem, go work on the knee." And it works just as good as if I put my hands there. So I don't necessarily, and during the Zoom calls now, I know I don't have to touch anybody. I can do it long distance. And I get
Do you
people,
imagine the crown chakra opening up and the energy going through, or do you see what is it that you
um,
imagine when you start?
so when I first start, like on a Zoom call, when I do it in person, my first thing is to put my hands on someone's head and their crown chakra, and that's what I visualize your head, like right here in front of me. And I do it. I close my eyes. I say, "Yep, he's right here." And then I'll check on screen and I'll say, "Okay, let's go to the neck, or there's a problem in the neck or the throat chakra." And that's basically all it is. I just visualize where my hands are. And when I first started, people would respond and they'd feel good. Now what I'm finding is that some people are saying, "Wow, I felt your hand here. I felt your hand here." And I'm like, "Wow, that's amazing," because we're not, we're thousands of miles apart. But you
Yeah.
felt me working on your left knee. And they're like, "Oh yeah, I felt it all right. I felt exactly where you put your hands." So it's kind of interesting because now I can do things that I can't do in person because you got to be careful where you touch people. But on a Zoom call, I don't have to worry about that because I'm not physically touching you. But then I have worked on people that have had lung issues where, I would just go right through their chest and work all the way down. And they were like, "Oh my God, I felt your hands like across everywhere." And I'm like, "That's awesome."
Yeah.
So they're definitely healing something that I'm not aware of. And then they would say,
Especially
like,
in our first session, I
"Yes,
felt my lower back on fire.
yes,
In the second one, less, but in the first one, I felt my lower back on fire.
yeah." And it's different, and it's a different energy each time I do it. So the first time they were probably really pumping a lot of high energy frequency into your lower back. And then the second time they were a little more mild. because I was doing it differently. I was reaching around the front and coming through both the front and the back at the same time. So the energy shifts. And everyone feels it differently. Some people say, they feel coldness, and most people feel the heat. But I have had people say, oh, yeah, when you touch my hips on both sides, I felt this cold. I'm like, well, that's interesting. Everybody's different. I just
Yeah.
go about my day and do my work.
So, what's your perception of the differences between the different modalities of energy healing or Reiki? You do angelic, etc. There are cosmic rays. There are different people. Sound healing do different things. What's your
Right.
understanding of the difference between?
So the way I look at it, like, let's take sound healers. Sound healers use frequency vibration. Like they may pump out 432 megahertz or something from a crystal bowl, let's say, and that does heal. I mean, I love sound energy. I do some myself. I have a couple of crystal bowls, but I like when people do it to me. I love it. It's great. And one of the things that I do, as you know, I play angelic frequency music while I'm doing working on someone, because they're all different frequencies, and those frequencies affect people differently. It's very calming and soothing. Now, Reiki is completely different than what I do. Matter of fact, my signs at my events say this is not Reiki. I'm very clear on that because I don't want to be categorized as a Reiki healer. I never took Reiki. I'm not certified in Reiki. I know nothing about Reiki. Zero. I'm self-taught. Spirit showed me how to do everything that I do. And it's much, much different than doing Reiki. So Reiki pulls from universal energy source. I pull directly from source. It's different. I'm pulling directly from Father and Jesus and the angels, where Reiki people just, they're picking up on symbols in the universe, and that's completely different than what I do. And sound healers, they're an interesting group because they use different sound techniques. I've been to a lot of sound therapy sessions, and everybody uses something different. My ability to meditate is so good, I can drop in very quickly. So when I go to those type of events, I get into a meditative state, and it's very relaxing for me, where someone else may not be so relaxed because they're not able to get into that meditative state, like that conscious awareness, like I can, because of my gifts. I practiced a lot when I was getting into
Do
this.
you think that there is a correlation between your ability to meditate and to, let's say, surrender to the energy and the quality of the healing? And do you think that, for example, if you don't believe, maybe you are religious, but maybe you don't believe in healing because you are materialist, etc., and so you go there not believing that this thing is going to work. Is it going to work, or what do you think is?
It should work, yeah. I mean, because I do get a lot of people that are skeptical when they come to see me, and my ability is to make a believer out of them, because if they have a little bit of faith, that's all they need. If they believe in Jesus, it's going to work. If they believe there's some angels up there, it's going to work. They're going to feel it, and that's going to shift their perspective immediately. I mean, I get that. I'll give you a great example. If someone lays on a massage table in front of me, I usually ask the question, do you want to be healed? I've learned over the years to keep my hands away from them when I say that, because if I get too close, sometimes they're picking up on the energy right away, and they'll close their eyes, and I see the rapid eye movement. I already know that they're connecting to source. That's my signal. So I have to stop and move my hands. Sometimes I put them behind me, and I say you have to answer the question, because it's all permission based. They're not going to come through without your permission, because that's just not right. That's not how we do things. And even Jesus used to say, do you want to be healed? That's where I got it from. He's the one who told me to say that. Do you want to be healed? You have to say yes. If you say no, I'll just say, okay, have a nice day, get off the table, and go on your way. It's that simple.
And you were talking about the music that you use.
Mm-hmm.
So is it a particular type of music? You say angelic frequencies?
It is. It's I downloaded it off of Spotify under Angelic Music, and what I discovered just looking at the playlist, it was all different artists, but they're all different frequencies. Some are in 432 megahertz, some are in 999 megahertz, And what I found is, and I accidentally started using this. I had a playlist on Spotify that I used that people seem to really like. And one day, I don't know, I got on my fingers, iPhones. I'm not good with technology. I lost my playlist. And I had somebody on the table and I'm panicking. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have my playlist. And I saw the angelic frequency one. I said, well, I've never used it. Let's just play it. I hit it. It Everybody loved this playlist. They were like, "Oh, the music you played was so relaxing." I'm like, maybe they're wrong. So I've used that playlist now, and it goes for a couple of hours. I've got like 2 hours worth, or more than that. I mean, my shows are 8 hours long. I can play it for almost 8 hours before I have to restart it. That's how long it is, and all the songs are
Can you
different.
can you please share with me, and I'll add it to the link on in the description as well. I'm curious to
Yeah,
use
I
it.
can
No,
look
not
it up.
now. Later on, I'll
Oh,
send
okay,
you
yeah, I'll
send you a
share it
note.
with you. Yeah, it's called Angelic Healing Music, Angels and Archangels, Guardians.
Great. I'm gonna have a
That's
look.
what, and it's on Spotify. And if you find it, download it. Oops, sorry,
Yeah,
that was
and
it.
I will recognize it because now I had 2 sessions with you, so I will recognize it.
Yes, and was it
But
relaxing for you?
yes, it was. It was.
Yeah, yeah, it's
And
awesome. It's not anything disturbing or
no, 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 no.
distractive. It's just very calming.
And I'm doing a lot of. I mean, I'm a Reiki practitioner. Again, I was called to do Reiki
Hmm.
a few months ago, and I don't know why. And so I've been doing a lot of self Reiki and a lot of Reiki videos from other practitioners almost on a daily basis. So it's very easy for me nowadays to relax, let go, open, and receive.
Oh, that's awesome.
Can anybody do this? I mean, I understand that you have a particular gift and you're able to channel an incredible amount of energy, and that's
Yes.
not common. But can anybody open up to this kind of healing the same way anybody can go to a Reiki class and get certified as a Reiki practitioner? What do you,
So I know there's many people that do work with Christ consciousness and Christ energy. The way it was explained to me by them was that I was they gave this gift to 4 people on Earth. The other 3 failed miserably at it. I stuck with it, so they stuck with me. That's why about 4 years ago they came back and said, "Hey, you need to do this again." During that show I was talking about earlier, and they weren't kidding, And from what I was told, because I asked if I could teach this, and they said, "No, it's a gift that we gave to you. I gave to you from Jesus, directly from him." And he said, "However, when you do get to the level that we're comfortable with, we will send you some people that we handpick to do what you do, and we want you to show them what you do and how you do it." So eventually, I think, yes, I probably will be teaching some other folks how to do it. As far as I know, I'm the only person around that does to the level that I do it. Like I said, I know there's a lot of people that Jesus works through, and that's wonderful. And I hope he picks more people. I'm not selfish. I don't have to be the only guy in town that can do this. It's just
the world is a big place and needs a lot of.
it is a very big place, and that's the whole premise, is for me to heal as many people as I can. I'm excited for the part where I can do mass healings. I think that would be wonderful. Who wouldn't want to do that?
Of course.
Who wouldn't want to get up in front of 1,000 people and say, do you want to be healed? Yeah, okay, here it comes. I would love nothing more than to just be able to walk by and tap someone and heal them. I mean, who wouldn't?
Do you have a? Is there? So, would you be able to describe a type of person that comes to you with specific needs, physical healings rather than emotionals or trauma, or anything and everything? And
I get everything and anything. There are a few things that I know I cannot heal that I've tried, and one of them is Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS. There's nothing I can do with those people. I had a woman who could not speak once, and she had a session. Her husband, translated for me because he was married to her for a long time. At the end of that 30-minute session, I looked her square in the face. This was on Zoom call, and I said, "How do you feel?" And she responded, "I feel fine." And then she went, "Oh my gosh, I'm talking." I'm like, "Yeah, you are." And I told her before the session, I was like, with ALS, there's not much I can do. It's a very progressive, very dangerous disease.
What about
And
Parkinson?
I've tried them too. There's nothing I can do with those type of modalities. Diabetes is another one. Sight issues. I've had some luck with sight issues and not so lucky. Tinnitus is another one. I've healed people with one touch with tinnitus, and other people, mm-mm. And it's interesting because sometimes people have to do, like, I can give you a perfect story. My ex-girlfriend's sister had a car accident when she was in her 20s. She's in her 60s now. She's got a lot of metal in her back. It took me a year, maybe once a month, of healing her back until she became pain-free. That was probably one of my toughest cases. And now she comes for tune-ups every once in a while. Like every 4 to 6 weeks, she'll say, "Hey, my back's starting to bother me a little bit. Would you mind?" I'm like, "No, not at all. Come over, and I'll work on it." And I do, half hour, 45 minutes to an hour on her, and then she's fine for a while. So everybody handles the energy differently. I've learned just certain things I cannot, heal. I've had Parkinson's, I've had ALS, I've had diabetics, and guys with really severe sight issues. Nothing seems to be helping. I hope that changes, because who wouldn't want a miracle in their life?
Yeah. And it's also possible, and probably already happened to you multiple times, that people come from one reason and actually something else happens, right? Because
Yes, all the time. Because people forget their injuries, and then all of a sudden they go, "Hey, I didn't tell you about that spot, but you went right to it, like, immediately." And it feels great. So yeah, I mean, it's all over the board, and I hope one day that I can do just about anything. I mean, it would be wonderful. I would love to be able to do that. What a gift.
has it ever happened that some people come with a specific idea and they don't get what they needed, but they get something else without even knowing that they needed that? For example, that they had an issue
Yes.
or a trauma to be healed,
I've
etc.
had people come in my tent, complaining about, like, say, knee pain, and I'd work on the knee pain. But then, like, this one lady was a yoga practitioner, and her knees were bothering her. So I worked on both her knees, and, it was a 20-minute session. It was very quick. But at the very end, she sat up, and I reached around and put my hand on her heart chakra in the front and the back. I don't know why. They just told me to do it. And she shook very violently. I shook very violently, and it was Jesus coming through. And she was moved, and she looked at me, tears, she couldn't even speak. I was like, "You need a moment?" She said, "Yeah." She just nodded. It took her about 5 minutes before she could say, "That was insane. What was that?" I'm like, "You just got touched by Jesus's energy." And she's like, "I need a few minutes. I can't even move." And I let her sit there. It took her about 10 to 15 minutes to really come around. And she just sat there, like, rocking like a child. And I just kept saying, "Are you okay?" She's like, "Yeah, I'm trying to process." And a lot of times when people leave my tent, they need to sit down. We have a couple of chairs right outside the tent, and we'll tell them, like, just sit down and relax, because they have to process what just happened to them. And they're in shock. They're dazed. It's sometimes the energy can be very powerful, and people aren't expecting to have that experience when they come in, and then they leave a different person.
Yeah.
Makes it exciting for me. I love to watch it, because I can see them at the end. Even if I'm working on someone else, I always keep an eye on everybody, see what they're dealing with.
And this is a personal curiosity. You talked about earlier about the dark energies that sometimes show up, and you ask Jesus to send them back or to free the person.
Mm-hmm.
Does that always work for you, or is there a free will also of those entities to interact? Do they have the free will to stay and stick around and bother you because that's maybe your agreement to experience those kind of
Right,
things?
exactly. You hit the nail right on the head with that one. Yes, because some people don't want to let go of that dark energy because that's part of their life. I have had people that struggled with it. I've also worked with other very powerful mediums when I run into this problem, and they would even say, like, she doesn't want to let it go, just leave it be. It's afraid of you, but it's very powerful and it wants to stay. I had one recently in Cincinnati, Ohio. I was at a show. A woman came in and she didn't know why she was drawn to my tent, but as soon as I put hands on her, boom, her body twisted and jolted, and I'm like, we got a guest. Okay, so let's work on it. I eventually turned the timer off, so we just do 20 minutes at the show, and it was probably about 45 minutes in, and I called my assistant in and I said, do me a favor, just put your hands right here and start praying. Like, pray out loud to Jesus, and we need to get rid of this, whatever this is. And I looked down at this woman and I said to her, you have the ability to let this go. You're not releasing it. You need to release it. I'm trying my best to get it out of you. It doesn't like the light. That's why you're twitching and moving about. And she's like, but I don't know what to do. I was like, well, ask Jesus to remove it. In the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to leave. And that's, eventually she stopped twitching. I don't know if we got it all in her case. I'm skeptical myself about that particular lady, because whatever it was that was inside of her was very strong, and it gave me a hard time. And I felt, maybe it was trying to trick me at the end by her not moving around, but she abruptly left after that. Her husband was outside the tent and he looked in, he goes, what in the world was that? He was shocked. And she was just crying. She's like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do, but I feel that we got it. But so far I have a pretty good track record of getting them out. I mean, it's just the light just dissolves them. It just vaporizes them. That's kind of the way it is. Sometimes I can trap them. I can feel them. I did a woman at my home studio where she jolted a few times. I said, okay, Houston, we have a problem. Let's get to this. And I called Jesus in right away. I was like, and he's like, he doesn't just come in and do it. He tells me to do it. He's like, no, you find it. I need to teach you how to do this. And he's like, find it wherever it is. So I started moving around and I was on her side and I felt it go underneath my hands. I could actually feel movement. I'm like, oh, okay. I think it's in her arm. So he said, we'll find out. So I put my left hand on her shoulder and I put my right hand underneath her hand and I felt her wrist, and her wrist was pulsating like a heartbeat, but a lot stronger. She asked me, she's like, what is that? And I'm like, well, that's a little piece of dark energy that you have right there. You want me to get rid of it? She's like, absolutely. It's scaring me. So I slid my left hand down and put it right over it. And then I asked Jesus to come in. I'm like, all right, just bring your energy in here and dissolve this. And it did. And it worked. And the lady was totally flipping out at the end. She's like, I felt that. She's like, I felt something go from my leg all the way up my ribs and down my arm. And then you put your hands there and it was like pulsating. She didn't quite understand. So I tried to explain to her. I was like, well, it's just a little bit of dark energy. It was nothing like really dangerous in my view. It was small, but it was persistent. It didn't want to leave. But I said, no, we got it. Right?
Understood.
Don't hear from him again.
Yeah. Well, Patrick, I took a lot of your time and I really appreciate it. Do you have a last message for the audience? And then where can people find you and engage, and how can they engage with you?
So the website is patrickangelichealer.com, and you can book a remote session right there. Everything's good. My message to everybody would be, hey, just be nice to one another, man. We got to love one another more. That's what it is. It doesn't matter what your political backgrounds are. It doesn't matter what nationality or what color your skin is. It's like, I love everybody, and everybody knows that about me. I don't care who you are, what nationality, what background, what color. I don't care. There isn't a racist bone in my body. I love everybody, and I work on everybody. And that's the beautiful thing. And when you are nice to other people, you're going to see that reflection. It's a mirror. You're a mirror of yourself. So if you go out there and show love and admiration towards your fellow human being, guess what? You're going to get it right back. It's wonderful.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
also a beautiful way to finish this thing.
yes, it's great. Try it, and you're going to love yourself for it. You're going to make yourself so much more happier in life because I do it all the time, and I just love everybody.
Thank you very much, Patrick.
Thank you, Antonio. It was
Uh,
wonderful being here. I really appreciate it, and I'm
And we're
glad
gonna
your
speak
back
soon
is
again.
doing better.
Yes, it is, and we're gonna see each other again. Thank you very much, Patrick.
All righty, take care.
Thank you so much for watching. Something is Up is still at the very beginning, so every bit of support makes a huge difference in my ability to bring you more amazing stories and incredible guests. If you enjoy this conversation and feel called to support the channel, I'd be super grateful if you could just click the like and subscribe buttons and share the video with anyone you think might enjoy. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next episode.